What's up, y'all? So, I haven't really read in a while. It's been like more than a day. I didn't read all day yesterday. I really wanted to, but I didn't. So, chapter 14. Adios, Antonio. Adios, mama. Adios, ULTIMA. I waved. You say the damnest things, Andrew laughed. Respect your teacher. Give my regards to Miss Maestas. Do not bring shame to our name. My mother's voice was distant now. Why? Asked Andrew. I don't know, he answered as I followed his long strides up the goat path. Just the way you turn and wave goodbye to Grande and Mama beats all. Always turn and look back, I said, falling into the measure of his walk. I was glad to be walking with him. Why? I don't know. Sometimes I get the feeling that I will come home and it will all be changed. It won't be the same anymore. I could not tell him that I wanted the castle of the giants to stand forever and I wanted the goat path and the hill to be for always, but I had misgivings. I was beginning to learn that things wouldn't always be the same. I know what you mean, he said as Deborah and Teresa passed us by like two wild goats. When I came back from the army, I felt it had changed. Everything seemed smaller. I'm glad you will be home, I said. I clutched my Red Chief tablet and my pencil. I was anxious to see the gang. I wondered how hard the third grade would be. I feel like an old man going to school, but it's the only way, Tony, the only way. At the bridge, we met the kid and Samuel. We raced across as usual. The brown, savage figure of the kid left us behind. At the end of the bridge, Andrew hung behind to catch his breath, he said, and Samuel and I went on. We passed Rosie's house and headed towards the school. I told Samuel I had seen the golden carp that summer, and he was very pleased. You might become one of us, he smiled, his wise, contented smile. What did you do? I asked. I went for you, but you were gone. My father and I herded sheep on the Aqua Negra ranch, he said. You know, Tony, he added, I think I will become a sheep herder. My mother wants me to become a farmer or a priest, I said. There are rewards in caring for sheep, and there are rewards for tilling the soil, but the greatest calling is to be a priest, he said. A priest is a man who cares for his people. Yes, I heard about the evil thing they did to ULTIMA. The story of Tenorio's blinding was throughout the camps. He paused and looked at me. You must be careful. The kids in town will not understand. I will, I said. We reached a tumultuous playground. I told Samuel that I had to see Miss Maestas. He understood. I wanted to see Miss Maestas and deliver my mother's greetings before I got involved with the gang. Miss Maestas was busy with the first graders, and so I did not stay long. But she was happy to see me, and I was happy to see her. She hadn't changed much from last year. Then I ran out and joined the gang at our spot on the playground. Hi, Tony, they called, and Horace threw me a pass. I caught it and passed it to Florence. Chingada, Florence missed it and shagged. A la vaca, Butterfingers. Who's your teacher, Tony? Miss Harris or Miss Violet? Don't know. Miss Violet, Bones cried out. We all got Miss Violet. Chingada, I told you. How do you know? Lloyd asked. They give the dumb kids to Miss Violet. All the dumb yellow birds. Yeah, Lloyd mimicked. Tony ain't dumb. He passed 2 grades. He has a witch to help him, Ernie sneered. Ernie was still after me. I still don't know why. Miss Violet gives all her kids prunes on Fridays. She gets even with our parents for having to guard us all week, every day. Everybody laughed. I ain't no dumb yellow bird, Horace whinnied. Hey, Tony, Ernie called. Is it true your brother's been whoring with the girls at Rosie's? A la veca, las putas. I don't know what the word whoring meant, but I knew Rosie's was a bad place. I did not answer. Knock it off, Rez said. Why pick on Tony? Everybody in town goes to Rosie's. Yeah, Bones howled. Yeah, Bones howled, and his eyeballs rolled loose in their sockets, including Ernie's old man. Cabron, Bones, Ernie glared, but he didn't jump Bones. It was stupid to jump Bones. Bones might kill you and not care. Ernie's old man, Horace shouted and mounted Bones, and everybody laughed. Ha ha ha, Horace grasped. Very funny, Ernie spit and swung to face me. But at least we don't have a witch around our house. Hey, yeah, Tony's got a witch. I heard about it this summer in Chingada, a la veca. Is that right, Tony? Florence asked. She blinded a man. Abel nodded vigorously. How? Witchcraft? A la verga. They were around me now, looking at me. The circle was tight and quiet. Around us, the playground was one jarring, humming noise, but inside the circle, it was quiet. Come on, you guys, Red said. This is Tony's first year with us. Let's play ball. Come on, there ain't no such thing as witches. There is if you're a Catholic, Lloyd countered. Yeah, Horace agreed. Red don't know nothing about anything. He's going to hell because he's not a Catholic. Bullshit, Red said. It's true, Lloyd said. Heaven is only for Catholics. Not really, Florence nodded, his angular figure rocking back and forth. Come on, Tony, Ernie said, coming closer. She is a witch, ain't she? They were going to burn her, huh? They would have to drive a stake through her heart to make it legal, Lloyd said. She is not a witch. She is a good woman, I answered. I barely heard myself speak. Out of the corner of one eye, I saw Samuel sitting on the seesaws. You calling me a liar? Ernie shouted in my face. His saliva was hot and bitter. Someone said he only drank goat's milk because he was allergic to cow's milk. Yes, I shouted in his face. I had felt like running away, but I remember my father, Narciso, standing firm for ULTIMA. I saw Ernie's eyes narrow and felt the vacuum created as everyone held his breath. Then Ernie's arm snapped out and a football he was holding hit me full on my face. I instinctively struck out and found my fist laid on his chin. Fight, fight, Horse shouted and jumped on me. Opened my watering eyes as I went down and saw Bones pile on top of Ernie. After that, it was a free-for-all. Everyone jumped into the swirling, thrashing pile. Curses and grunts and groans filled the air briefly. Then a couple of the junior high teachers reached in the pile and pulled us out, one by one. No one was hurt, and it was the first day of school, so they did not report us to the principal. They only laughed at us, and we laughed along with them. The bell rang, and we ran to begin another year of school. No one teased me about ULTIMA after that. If I had been willing to take on Ernie, I guess they figured that I would fight anybody. It wasn't worth it, and besides, behind the force that Red and Samuel would lend me in a fight lay powerful, unknown magic of Ultima. The pleasant autumn days were all too quickly eroded by the winds of time. School settled into routine as the cold settled over the llano, and there was less to do on the farms and ranches. More and more of those kids came into the school. The green of the river passed through a bright orange and turned brown. The trickle of water in the riverbed was quiet, not singing as in the summer. The afternoons were gray and quiet, charged with the air of ripeness and belonging. There was a safe, secure welcome in the opening kitchen door and being greeted by the warm aroma of cooking and my mother and Ultima. Just before Christmas, the snows and the winds of the llano locked the land in an icy grip. After school, the playgrounds were quickly deserted, and if you had to stay after school, it was eerie and lonely to walk alone through the deserted streets. Snows alternated with the wind of the llano, the coldest wind of the world. The snows would melt, then the wind would freeze the water into ice, then the snows would come again. The river was completely frozen over. The great trees that lined the banks looked like a giant snowman, huddling together for warmth. On the llano, the cattlemen struggled to feed their herds. Many animals were lost, and the talk was always about the terrible cold of the winter that competed with other years lost in the memories of the old people. The entire school looked forward eagerly to Christmas vacation. The 2 weeks would be a welcome relief from trudging back and forth to school. The last thing we looked forward to doing in school was a presentation of the play we had done in Miss Violet's room. Actually, the girls had done the work, but we all took credit for it. No one had expected the blizzard that blew in the night before we were to give our play. Madre mia, I heard my mother cry. I looked over frosty, frozen blankets and saw my small window entirely covered with ice. With the cold hugging me like death, I dressed and ran steaming into the warm kitchen. Look, my mother said, she had cleaned a small spot on the icy window. I looked out and saw a white countryside, desolate except when ripples of blue broke the snowdrifts. The girls will not go to school today, she said to Ultima. What's one day, Deborah, Teresa? She called up the stairs. Stay in bed, the snow has covered the goat path. I heard squeals and giggles from upstairs. Will Tony go? Andrew asked, walking to the stove and shivering, dressed to battle with the snowdrifts. I have to go, I answered. The play is today. It is not good, Ultima whispered. She did not mean the play. She meant something in the weather because I saw her raise her head slightly as if to sniff the scent of the wind outside. It's only one day, Tony, Andrew said, coming to sit at the breakfast table. It is good for him, my mother said. She nerved us bowls of steaming atole and hot tortillas. If he is to be a priest, he should learn early about sacrifice. Andrew looked at me and I at him, but we didn't speak. Instead, Andrew asked, how about work at the highway? Has it opened up? I know, my mother said. The ground is frozen. Your father has been home 2 weeks. Only the salt trucks are out. What's the play about, Tony? Andrew asked. Christ, I said. What part do you play? A shepherd. You think you should go to school? He inquired. I knew he was concerned because the snow was so deep. Yes, I nodded. How about you, Andres? My mother asked. I thought today was your day off at the store. It is, Andrew answered. Just going to pick up my check. And see your girl, my mother smiled. No, girl, Andrew frowned. Come on, Tony. He rose up and put on his jacket. Let's get going. My mother tucked me into my jacket and put my wool cap on my head. My man of learning, she smiled and kissed my forehead. Que Dios le bendiga. Gracias, I said. Adios, Ultima. I went to her and gave her my hand. Take care of the evil in the wind, she whispered, and bent low to kiss my cheek. See, I answered. I put my hand on my chest where I wore her scapular, and she nodded. Come on, Andrew called from the door. I ran after him and followed him down the goat path, trying to step into the footsteps where he broke the snow. The early morning sun was shining and everything was bright. It hurt my eyes to see so much whiteness. Perhaps the blizzard would lift now. Andrew puffed ahead of me. In the west, the clouds were still dark, but I said nothing. It was slow walking through the thick snow, and by the time we got to the bridge, our feet were wet, but it was not cold. There's the kid. It was the first time I'd ever seen the kid standing still. He and Samuel had caught sight of us and were waiting. Race, the kid called as we came up. Not today, Andrew answered. You're liable to break your neck in that ice. He nodded, and we looked down the ice-covered sidewalk of the bridge. Cars had splashed ice water onto the sidewalk, and overnight had frozen solidly. We had to pick our way carefully across the bridge. Still, the kid did not trust us. He walked just ahead of us backwards so that he could see us at all times. Did you hear about the fight last night? Samuel asked. He walked quietly beside us. Our breath made plumes in the crisp, raw air. Down in the river, the water, bushes, trees, everything was covered with ice. The sun from the east sparkled on everything and created a frozen fairyland. No, Andrew said. Who? Tenorio and Narciso. I listened carefully. I still remember Tenorio's threat. Where? At the Longhorn. Drunk? Drinking? Who told you? My father was there. My father was drinking with Narciso, Samuel said. That Tenorio came in from El Puerto. Tenorio was cursing La Grande Ultima. Then he cursed Narciso in front of the men, but it wasn't until he cursed all the people of Las Pasturas that Narcisa got up and pulled that funny little beard that grows on Tenorio's face. Ha, Andrew laughed. Serves that old bastard right. Samuel continued. My father says it will not end at that. We reached the end of the bridge and the kid jumped across. He had won the walking race. Where will it end? I asked Samuel. It will only end when blood spilled, Samuel said. My father says that the blood of a man thickens with the desire for revenge, and if a man is to be complete again, then he must let some of that thick blood flow. We stopped and it was very quiet. One car started across the bridge. It moved very slowly, the tires sleeping on the ice. Up ahead, a few of the gas station owners could be seen sweeping snow from the driveways. Everyone was hoping the blizzard had lifted. Everyone was sick of the cold. They are drunks with nothing better to do than argue like old women, Andrew laughed. Perhaps your father will be right if he were talking of men. Drunks and devils are also men, Samuel countered. Ah, Andrew puffed, white steam. You guys run on to school. See you tonight, Tony. See you, I waved. The kid had already bolted away. I ran to keep up with Samuel. The schoolhouse was quiet like a bomb, like a tomb frozen over by the winter. The buses didn't come in because of the blizzard, and even most of the town kids stayed home. But Horse and Bones and the rest of the gang from Los Haros were there. They were the dumbest kids in school, but they never missed a single day. How could freeze over, but they would still come marching across the tracks, wrestling, kicking at each other, stomping into the classroom where they fidgeted nervously all day and made things miserable for the teachers. While the girls, Bone sniffed the wind wildly and plunked it to a frozen desk. They didn't come, I answered. Why, chingada? What about the play? I don't know, I said and pointed to the hall where Miss Vadic conferred with the other teachers who had come to school. They all wore their sweaters and shivered. Downstairs, the furnace groaned and made the steam radiators ping, but it was still cold. No play? Shit, Abel moaned. Miss Violet came in. What did you say, Abel? No play. Shucks, Abel said. We can still have a play. Miss Violet sat down and we gathered around her. If the boys play the parts, we all looked at each other. The girls had set up all the stuff in the auditorium, and they had, with Miss Violet's help, composed a story about the three wise men. Originally, we just stood around and acted like shepherds, but now we would have to do everything because the girls stayed home. Yeah, Horace breathed on Miss Violet. The other teachers don't have much to do. With so many kids absent, she turned away from the inquisitive Horace, and they would like to come to our play. Ah, no, Bones growled. We have to read all the parts, Lloyd said. He was carefully picking at his nose. Oh, this is a long chapter. Jesus Christ, this is really long. Wow. I guess I'll be reading you guys a long chapter then. We could practice all morning, Miss Violet said. She looked at me. I think it's a great idea. Red nodded his head vigorously. He'd always try to help the teacher. Alaveca, what does that mean, Miss Violet asked. It means okay. So the rest of the morning we sat around reading the parts for the play. It was hard because the kids from Los Hados couldn't read. After lunch, we went to the auditorium for one quick practice before the other teachers came in. With their classes being on the stage scared us. Some of the boys began to back down. Bones climbed up the stage rope and perched on a beam near the ceiling. He refused to come down and be in the play. Booins, Miss Violet called. Come down. Bones. Bones snapped down at her like a cornered dog. The play is for sissies, he shouted. Horse threw a chunk of a 2x4 at him and almost clobbered him. The board fell and hit the kid and knocked him out cold. It was funny because although he turned white and was out, his legs kept going like he was racing someone across the bridge. Miss Violet worked frantically to revive him. She was very worried. Here, Red. Red had gone in for water, which he splashed on the kid's face. The kid groaned and opened his eyes. Cabron, caballo, he cursed. The rest of us were either putting on silly robes and towels to make us look like shepherds or wandering around the stage. Someone tipped the Christ child over and lost his head. Ain't no such thing as a virgin birth, Florence said, looking down at the decapitated doll. He looked like a madman with his long legs sticking out beneath the short robe and his head wound in a turban. You're all a bunch of sissies, Bones shouted from above. Horse aimed the 2x4 again, but Miss Violet stopped him in time. Go put the head on the doll, she said. I gotta go to the bathroom, Abel said. He held the front of his pants. Miss Violet nodded her head slowly, closed her eyes, and said no. You could be sued for not letting him go, Lloyd said in his girlish voice. He was chewing on a Tootsie Roll. Chocolate dripped down the sides of his mouth and made him look evil. I could also be tried for murder. Miss Violet reached for Lloyd, but he ducked and disappeared behind one of the cardboard cows by the manger. Come on, you guys, let's cooperate, Red shouted. He had been busy trying to get everyone to stand in their places. We had decided to make everyone stand in one place during the play. It would be easier that way. Only the kings would step forth or to the manger and offered their gifts. Places, places, Miss Violet shouted. Joseph, she called, and I stepped forward. Mary, who was Mary? Horse, Red answered. No, 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 Horse cried. We chased him down on the stage and knocked over a lot of props, but we finally got the beautiful blue robe on him. Horse is a virgin, Bones called. Ah, cabrón. Horse started up the robe, but would be pulled down again. Horse, horse, Miss Violet tried to subdue him. It's only for a little while, and no one will know. Here, she put a heavy veil on his head and tied it around his face so that he covered all except his eyes. Nah, Horse screamed. It was awful to hear him cry like he was in pain. I'll give you an A, Miss Violet said in exasperation. That made Horse think. He had never gotten an A in anything in his life. An A, he muttered, his large horse jaws working as he weighed the disgrace of his role for the grade. Okay, he said finally. Okay, but remember, you said an A. I'll be your witness, Lloyd said from behind the cow. Horse is a virgin, Bones sang, and Horse quit the job, and we had to persuade him all over again. Bones is just jealous, Red convinced him. Come down, Miss Violet yelled at Bones. Give me A, Bones growled. All right, she agreed. You thought a while, then yelled, no, give me 2 A's. Go to, she stopped herself and said, stay up there. But if you fall and break your neck, it's not my fault. You could be sued by his family for saying that, Lloyd said. He wiped his mouth and the chocolate spread all over his face. I gotta pee, Abel groaned. Horse, kneel here. Horse was to kneel by the manger, and I stood at his side with one hand on his shoulder. When I put my arm around his shoulder, Horse's lips sputtered, and I thought he would bolt. His big horse eyes looked up at me nervously. One of the cardboard donkeys kept tipping over and hitting Horse. It only served to make him more nervous. Some of the kids were stationed behind the cardboard animals to keep them up, and they giggled and kept looking around the edges at each other. They started a spitwad game, and that made Miss Violet angry. Please behave, she shouted. Please. The vitamin kid had recovered and was running around the stage. She collared him and made him stand in one spot. King's here, she said. I guess someone had put the robe on the kid when he was knocked out, because otherwise no one could have held him long enough to slip the robe on. Does everybody have copies of the play? Red shouted. If you have to look at the lines, keep the script hidden so the audience doesn't see. I can see. It was Bones. He leaned to look down at Florence's copy of the play and almost fell off the rafter. We all grasped, but he recovered. Then he bragged, Tarzan, king of the jungle. And he started calling elephants like Tarzan does in the movie. I guess I gotta really go pee as well, so I'm gonna stop right here. It's getting dark, and I'm gonna just do an interlude for this chapter. It's a very long chapter. Peace, y'all.